you a self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is a premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and Self-Storage Unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Good morning, self-storage industry, and welcome to another episode of the SBOA's Self-Storage Unlocked. Today, we are talking all about customer analytics and data that you should be pulling, their behaviors and trends, and how you should apply that to make better business decisions for your facilities. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jessica Johnson. I'm the Vice President of the SBOA, and we love doing this educational series for you. We do 2 to 3 of these per month. They are completely free. They are recorded, and you can also watch them on replay on our YouTube channel. So if you don't follow the SBOA on YouTube, I highly suggest you go do that. A few quick housekeeping items. I see many of you are chatting. Good morning. Hi, Corey, John, Linda, Zeke. Thanks for joining us today. Again, like I said, we really love putting these on for you. So if you have comments or questions for the speakers today, please put those in the comment section for us, as many of you are doing. We will ask some poll questions throughout today's event. So keep your eyes out for those poll questions. We'll put them in the chat. And if you could respond to those, it just helps us to get to know you better. And big shout out to MSI, XPS Solutions, Go Local, and I have to think of Frank's company right now. He came in and pinched it at the last minute. Frank, you're going to have to remind me when you come up, but we'll do some introductions here shortly of our speakers. But again, without these different companies, we cannot do events like this for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up our first speaker, who is Dan from MSI. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Jessica and everybody.
Hello. Dan, give me the skinny on you and what MSI does and the partnership MSI and the SBOA now have.
Yeah, okay, just a little bit about me. I've got about 30 years experience. It's hard to always, when you say that number, realize, wow, it's getting up there. But of mystery shopping, data collection, analytics. Mercantile's been around since 1954. We have a great relationship with the SBOA that we partnered to provide our services to the independent or the smaller locations, multiple locations, so that they could take advantage of mystery shopping, reputation management, internal audits. But most importantly is the analytics and the data that comes behind that. And then we support our clients in the SBOA with understanding that data. So we just don't throw it over the fence to you.
Yeah, and anyone that's interested in learning about any of those products, please reach out to myself or Dan. We'd be happy to demo those systems for you. I am just tickled with the power of those systems. So I appreciate the partnership, Dan. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next up, we call this guy Uncle Frank, but this is Frank Certo. Frank, you're on mute. I just want to let you know before you start talking. And Frank, I don't know why I couldn't think of your group's name, but go ahead and give us your intro, Frank.
Thanks, Jessica. Hello, everybody. I'm Frank Certo. I'm with the Storage Mall Management Group.
There it is.
So we're an owner-operator. and management group. We have about close to 50 locations in 8 or 9 states, headquartered technically in the Northeast in upstate New York, but we cover both the Midwest region and the we'll call it the Northeast region and Midwest. So we've got a little mix there. I've been in the industry a long time as an owner operator, mostly with regional operators. Mid-Atlantic operated everything from very large Class A new build construction all the way to renovation projects, small kind of mom and pop operators, 200, 300 type unit stores in rural communities. So I've got a lot of experience there.
Mhm.
And currently we're a growing company and excited to help everyone learn some new stuff today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. You are a wealth of knowledge. So I'm so happy you were able to come in and pinch hit for Chad today, who unfortunately, anyone that knows Chad Lundberg out there, send him some well wishes. He is not feeling well today. So thanks, Frank. All right. Next up, I have Melanie from Go Local. Good morning, Melanie.
Good morning.
All right, Melanie, you know the deal. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yep. I'm Melanie Tershak. I'm the marketing director at Go Local Interactive. We're a digital marketing agency. We work really heavily in the self-storage industry. We build websites, do online rentals. We do a lot of SEO, Google Ads, anything to drive traffic to those websites, focus a lot on user experience. Tenant experience, those types of things, really anything digital marketing. I, as a marketing director, spend most of my time working with our product teams and our client services teams, looking at lots of data to help just develop our digital products to make sure that they're developing into the best for our clients. I work a lot with clients on just educating them on what's going on in the industry. And that's about it.
Yeah, I was so tickled when Grace messaged me when she wasn't available and said, I have someone that's perfect for this topic. And she recommended you. So I can't wait to hear your insights on some of the questions that we have as it relates to websites, marketing, technology, et cetera. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks. All right. Before I announce our last speaker, we have a video from this speaker's company. So stay tuned.
If I were you, let's say you have 5 properties and you realize, look, I can't staff enough property managers to cover all my hours and not miss opportunities I'm probably going to have in the market. I can't staff enough people to keep all of my tenants happy all the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my own business development process here for my properties. I'm going to hire, 2, 3, 4 people to cover 100 plus hours a week to make sure we're there for them. I'm going to train them. I'm going to write software to be able to talk to my site management system. I'm going to record calls and do quality assurance on them. I'm going to drive my promotional special. I'm going to do all this here in my central office. If I'm you, the very first thing, once I understood the value of that concept, I would look for somebody to do it for me instead of me doing it myself, because I could never make that a profitable venture. It would never pencil. That's why this company exists. We solve that problem. We are your national sales center.
Love that video. XPS is a great company. And if you notice, I just asked a poll question in the comments. Do you use a call center for your locations? We would love to know that answer. So if you could please respond, I'd appreciate it. And I'm bringing up Shannon from XPS, who is, I believe now, the VP of Business Client Relations. Shannon, you tell me, but I saw that promotion recently.
So sweet. Yes, my name is Shannon Carbonneau, and I am the Vice President of Client Solutions, meaning
There it is.
All of the different parts of our company that touch our clients, all of those groups are my groups. So love them. And, we are just growing like gangbusters. As you know, a lot of people are moving towards a third-party solution because it's difficult to staff. You guys know this. So XPS has been in the industry this is our 23rd year, doing just self-storage. That's what we do. It's our core business. This year, we are proud to be offering, in addition to what we call our core services, which is call center. We answer the phones, we take the payments, we send people to your property to do tours. In the last year, we added renting the units right over the phone, and now we're adding remote managers. So we are, always keeping an eye on what's going on out there in the marketplace and what do you guys need. So love it.
Yeah, and I love that you guys are dedicated to storage because it's a different business. We have our own lingo, and you guys understand that lingo, so it just helps owners and operators perform more efficiently in their operations. So, thanks for being here today. All right, I'm bringing everybody back up, and we are going to kick this conversation off. Again, audience, if you have questions for the speakers, that's why we do these. They're here live. We want to hear from you. We want this to be interactive, but we have plenty of questions to go through. So, Melanie, I'm going to start off with you from like the marketing and website perspective. If you could pick out a few of the top metrics for data purposes that owners should be collecting, what would that be for you? And then once they collect those different metrics, how would they apply it into the business?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So definitely whenever we're looking at website performance overall, from a marketing perspective, the number one thing is conversions, right? So like how many people are actually making rentals, reservations, phone calls, forms from the website. For example, if you're looking at running a marketing campaign and you're running two different campaigns that have the same budget, and one campaign gets you 500 clicks, another one gets you 1,000 clicks. And you look at those campaign budget or those campaign reports, and you're like, wow, this 1,000 clicks one is obviously better. But if you look on the website and see that 1,000 clicks campaign got you one rental, but the 500 clicks campaign got you 10 rentals, then that's a completely different story. And so that conversion rate is really, really critical in helping make sure that you're making the best decisions for whenever you're analyzing these different campaigns and how different marketing avenues are affecting your business. So first and foremost, having really good conversion tracking is really, really important. Making sure that you are tracking phone calls. A lot of people will only track if they're doing like to make a reservation, but they're not tracking phone calls that happen on their website. I think on our end, we normally see about 60% of conversions that come through the website are coming from phone calls. So tracking phone calls is really, really critical. So if you're not tracking that, then you are missing out on 60% of the actions that are happening on your website.
Goodness. And Shannon, I'm sure you can add a little bit to that from the call center side. Sorry, Melanie, to interrupt you, but I wanted Shannon's perspective from what they see from like what you're saying, the call tracking and how critical that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Go Local especially does a great job with monitoring that and providing reporting based on actual tracking numbers that are specific to that website. So what she was talking about before with the A/B testing with her marketing, and this campaign provided this and this campaign provided that, they're tracking those phone calls by it being a separate phone number, right? They know what you called based on what website you were looking at that time. As a third-party person who all we do is the calls, I can just tell you most of the calls we get start with, I was looking at your website and ... right? Like they're already looking at you. They're calling because there was something that was going on there that they couldn't do. And the conversion especially is important, right? Is that person, are they calling your marketing line because they need help paying their bill, or they're mad because the store owner, didn't do something they wanted them to do, or they're, those kinds of things that happens. But tracking that information and counting those as a potential lead when they really are makes so much difference, especially if you're monitoring performance of people in the facility. Jessica, you wouldn't be shocked. You guys do secret shops, and the difference between when a manager picks up and says, oh yeah, 10 by 10 is $100. You need anything else? And a manager who picks up the phone and says, great. What is your name? How can I help you? Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And while you're on that point, I just want to bring up Dan for a second as it relates to the mystery shops. Dan, would you say the ones that we have done most recently, I would say the common theme that we're finding, which is very alarming when they're not performing well, is they are not asking the basics, name, phone number, email, to have some level of follow-up if the rental doesn't occur right there on the phone. and then followed by that, they're not really leading the conversation to be persuasive enough. Would you agree that that's like the common theme we've seen?
Yeah, it's absolutely. And we can tell right off the bat if we're testing a client or prospective client, whether they're doing some type of either mystery shopping or in-depth employee measurement, and holding them accountable to that by looking at the data, right? And so to Jess's point, on average, I would say if we do a phone mystery shop on a prospective client that's not doing anything, they're going to score in the 50%, maybe 30 or 40% of compliance. And that's a lot of different questions. But the big ones, like Jessica said, email, phone number, are you getting that? Because if they aren't, where are they going to populate that? I mean, they can't put it into your CRM. Your CRM's not going to function. It's not going to send out any marketing material, any follow-up. It's also not going to allow you to look at ROI. Like, is this working? Is my marketing pieces working? Are we doing conversions? And that's huge.
Yeah. And I'm going to back it up one step, Dan. Did they answer the phone in the first place?
Yeah, well, Shannon, you have a very valid point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but and where you guys can apply that, like if you saw that in mystery shops across your portfolio, or it kept happening, build that into like, this is our greeting. You say, thank you for calling Store Space. My name is Jessica. In case we get disconnected today, may I have your name and phone number? At least you have that, right? Email's probably like, a nice to have, but we want to be collecting that information in the forefront of the conversation. So, because they get really guarded for some reason. They want the info. They don't want to give, because I've heard it. I heard it the other day. It's like, I don't want to give you my email because I don't want to start getting emails from you. Well, okay, that's fine. So, but you can build it in. Melanie, I'm going to come back to you real quick, and then I'm going to come over to you, Frank, in a second. I always love asking this question when I'm talking to owners and operators, and most of them cannot rattle it off. And I can tell them that this is a metric that they should be able to rattle off. What does this cost to acquire this tenant? What is your acquisition cost? Because if you're not tracking that, you could be several $100s in and maybe not even breaking even if they only stay a month or two. So you've got to be looking at this. So talk to me about customer acquisition cost and why that's important.
Yeah, customer acquisition cost is incredibly important. And it can be a little tricky to get that to be as accurate as possible, especially if you don't have your conversion tracking set up properly, right? But ultimately, you're right in that it's really, really important for you to know, like, how much are you putting into that website, the advertising budgets, all of that, to know, all encompassing, what is it costing you to get a tenant through the door? So, and if you have the average value, so let's say your value is $500, and if the lifetime value is $500, but your digital cost is $1,000 to get somebody in the door, then that's not effective, right? You have to be making some changes. It's also important to know, and obviously you all know, every facility is different. Every facility has a different acquisition cost. If you have 5 facilities, they probably all have a different lifetime value. And so making sure that you make your marketing decisions and how much you're willing to spend and all of that based off of that lifetime value is incredibly important.
Now, Frank, as Melanie just mentioned, if you've got multiple locations, you're managing multiple locations. Do you see a lot of differences across locations? I mean, it really is very specific to the location, their city, their demos, right? How vast is that from what you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're talking about different types of markets. We have primary, secondary, rural markets. We've got, across just some different cultural things going on. The reality is that, as a company, we're trying, like, our cost per acquisition, the magic number is to beat $100. We're probably down in the 65 to 70 range. It's something we need to keep in mind, like is being said. And, part of it is there's an extreme expenditure. Marketing is, for a lot of operators and owners, marketing is like this nebulous because everything's expensive. I can't figure out where the money's going. I don't know what's happening. And it's this very anecdotal world. And I got to make it empirical. So I got to be able to make decisions. You can't make decisions on what you think, feel, what somebody told you. I've got to have data. I got to have numbers. And the only way to have it is to track it. So that's what we're talking about here. It's going to cost me more money to acquire a customer, and my conversion rate might not be as strong in some of the really busy markets where I'm competing against large operators that are very competitive
Sure.
rate wise and whatnot. Whereas some of my smaller markets, not that we're the only show in town, but we're probably one of the only shows that picks up the phone, as Shannon said, and goes through a structure. Is it a script? Not necessarily, but it's a structure. And we're not trying to be on the phone for 10 minutes. It's a quick opportunity for me to discuss what their needs are, empathize with them, get the demographic data I need so that I can get back to them, plug them in my system, and get them started down the pipeline. That's the deal. We have a funnel. We have to move them down the funnel. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for all that insight there too. So Frank, I'm going to stay on you for just a quick second because you are looking at many operational reports, probably daily, weekly, monthly. I mean, I'm sure you have a pretty good rhythm. But if like how I asked Melanie, what would be those top ones for you as an operator? What are some of your top reports that you're pulling to see, unit popularity, and if you have the right unit mix is an example I'll give out, your move in, move outs? Like, talk to me about what those maybe top 3 to 5 would be for you and why.
Well, to start with the simplest, a management summary report, which every different FMS has. They call it something different potentially, and there's different information on it in some cases, but it's a snapshot of your business right now. And if you look at that report enough and you know what's going on with that report, I can look at your management summary, and without making too many judgments, I can basically tell right off the bat whether the operation is being run properly or not. And of course there's variables in there, and, we don't want to make crazy judgments, but generally speaking, I can see that if I look at a few of them, I can see trending, and then it really tells me the story. So that's one you need to be looking at. And not only you, but your staff needs to understand it. Your managers need to be more than just order takers and customer service administrators. They need to be full proactive asset managers. They're managing and stewarding an asset that's your asset potentially, or it's a partnership asset and you want it to grow in value, so they have to know. So the other thing beyond that is I'm definitely looking at whatever kind of rental activity report, consolidated occupancy report, whatever it talks about, because that's going to give you a snapshot of what your inventory looks like. Not only is it going to tell you what's available, what's not, again, trending to see where that's at, but it's going to give you the economic metrics, your dollars per square foot, and you're going to be able to figure out if you need a unit mix change. If we're converting units, moving walls around, or just what's hot and what's not. Oftentimes, operations and owners build without in-depth feasibility studies, or you buy a property that, it is what it is, and your unit count and a mix is a fixed thing. You got to figure out now how to market this thing and how to make every single unit size attractive. And that's what your rental activity report is going to show you. The other thing, of course, is anything having to do with customer experience. And that's going to be any of your marketing documents, your leads. You got to be looking at where your leads are coming from. The days of folks driving around the neighborhood and stopping into 4 or 5 storage places, as might have been talked about at conferences 10 years ago. It's just not happening. Even someone who lives a mile away from me drives by me every single day. They don't need storage, but as soon as they do, they jump on the internet. So they're going to find my customer experience starts with how easy it was to find me. And of course, then as it moves down the funnel. So I've got to know my conversion numbers there. You have marketing documents and lead documents and reports that are going to find that. And look, it's too expensive to let leads go. And, especially a smaller property, if you're only getting 15, 20 leads, the margin of error is pretty thin. You cannot afford to lose them. So you
said something really smart too about the feasibility study, Frank, especially if anybody who's on this call is actively thinking about buying or building right now. I saw on a public forum somewhere recently where someone said, hey, these people want to charge me $2,000 to do a feasibility study. That seems ridiculous. Should I pay that? And I'm like, yes, pay that, right? It's $2,000.
And that's even low.
Yeah, you're talking about an asset worth millions of dollars that's going to provide you hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in operational revenue. Yes, go ahead and
Yeah,
find somebody.
it's gonna direct the unit mix. It's gonna
Yes.
give you some demand. I mean, you really have to understand what the demand in the market looks like. So much is done by feel. We have several properties in our portfolio that are managed properties that have been bought and sold several times. Now here we are. There's 75 5x5s, and they wonder why we can't rent any of them, or they don't rent, to 95%. It's like, you didn't do a feasibility study, and we've got new operators that didn't do it, and they've already found out in the first year that the doors aren't wide enough for the client base or whatever it is. So you got to do it. If you don't do it, it's really a vital part. You'll feel it later for sure.
And I think Amy from the audience, she said, what is that test called? I think she wanted us to say it again. It's a feasibility study. It's a critical piece. If you're going to be a serious business owner, I would do one in every situation possible. And we have resources for you that we can recommend. And we even have some, questioning that you should be asking a feasibility study consultant to make sure you're getting a good one. But yeah, I can't hone in on that enough, that it is a critical piece. So thanks for bringing that up.
Again, it takes things from the anecdotal world where you think, you feel, you drive around, you kind of get a sense, to a very empirical world where we see exactly what the data is telling us.
Yep.
And we can drive our operation from the very beginning, from the first shovel in the ground with good data.
Yeah. And even going to like the local city, the municipality, seeing what's in the pipeline. I've heard of a story of someone in California that did not do that and sold back to the bank within like 2 to 3 years because had no idea that this competitor was coming in, didn't check the pipeline. Competitor came in and basically wiped him out. I mean, he couldn't make ends meet and ended up having to sell back, which is pretty rare, I think, from the most part for what we see in self-storage, but it does and can happen, and you don't want that to happen to you. And Amy, we'll get that information out to you after this event. We have your information, so we'll send that out to you. So,
and Amy, I'm going to throw one more thing in there to immediately start having whoever is answering your phone calls, just keep an ear out for what are people asking for. Your frontline people are a really good source of that information as well. It is not the be all end all, and it's not the same as a feasibility, but if you're taking 10 phone calls a day, you're getting some data. So just make sure you're paying attention to that as well.
And then, I love another question to be asked during the rental process. Why do you need storage? If you keep seeing people are saying moving, and your facility doesn't offer maybe a U-Haul or a on the move moving truck, that might be something you want to go talk to them about as, another business driver to make your property more attractive in the competitive set than maybe your neighboring property. So because then you can package it all in one. Oh, you need storage and you're moving. Well, we have moving trucks. Could be a rented one, could be a free one, however you decide to do that. But again, that's where we want you guys to start looking at this data so you can apply it and start, again, making better decisions. So it's actually a little chilly today here in Florida. It's been really nice the few days. So I wanted to talk about seasonality and some seasonality shifts. And we're not going to loop Dan in because Dan lives in California and has beautiful weather all the time, Dan. But Dan, we'll loop you into this too, because I know you see seasonality shifts probably even on maybe there's swings in the audits and shopping side from seasonality. I don't know. You could speak to that, but Frank, I'm going to come back to you, and then Shannon. Actually, I'll start with you, Shannon, because you had said for seasonality, you guys were looking at this annual moving report to see like what they consider the hot moving season. So talk to me about how you guys look at that and what you do with that information.
Yeah, we definitely recommend that to our clients because that's important based on wherever they're located. Obviously, we're helping clients all over the country, and I don't pretend to be an expert in every single geographical area, right? But each owner is going to know, listen, am I in a college town? That makes a huge difference, right? You're going to know that, April and September, August, those are going to be really busy for you. We talked about how people who are stable kind of all year round, somewhere between June and August, if they are going to buy and sell a house, every real estate agent will tell you that's the crazy busy season. Every moving company will tell you that is the crazy moving, season. So you can utilize that information, especially like you said, Jessica, if you're asking the question, what's generating your need for storage? You're also going to find that that will really drive your how long do people rent, right? So your average length of stay in a college town is going to be less really than in maybe other areas of the country or other areas of your geographical location. But yeah, I mean, oh, I see you put the link on there as well. Yeah, we have just used Allied in the past because they're a nationwide moving company, and they have a lot to say about what days of the week are the best to schedule a truck, right? Because they, try to call a moving company on a Thursday afternoon and tell them you want to move on Saturday morning. I'll wait. That'll be a fun experiment. That doesn't work that way during the summer. Yeah.
Right. Melanie, anything you guys can add, even just from like the website perspective with seasonality shifts and how you help direct owner operators from that view?
Yeah, especially so website marketing overall, seasonality is incredibly important whenever we're deciding our marketing strategies. So I would say on the side, as far as even just like budgeting is really important. So obviously if you have an annual budget for a store, you don't just want to divide that by 12 and make that your monthly budget. You want to make sure that you budget that based on seasonality. Depending on sometimes though, like a lot of people, almost everybody will cut their budgets during the slow seasons, which makes sense because there's less volume. However, if you do have a struggling store, sometimes that's a good opportunity to increase budgets because there is fewer competition, because some people are cutting budgets. But most of the time, we're spending more during those busier seasons. I would say that as far as the like college towns and stuff go too, if you're able to pull how often or how far out are people reserving the unit before they actually move in, then if we know that they're normally reserving the unit, say a month before they move into college, then we can make sure that we're starting to push student storage in that area a month before that actually happens, and not just the week that college moving is happening, right? And so all of that data is really, really critical to getting that pushed out to our side, so that we're able to look at that and make those decisions, so that we're capturing that as soon as possible.
Yeah. Frank, I'll ask you this one. If you are anticipating an influx, like Melanie was just saying, we're about to have maybe you're in a college town and you've got all these pre-reservations or people looking, a certain amount of days out, and you're looking at your inventory and going, oh no, I don't have necessarily the inventory for this. How can I free up some inventory? Are you looking at doing some price increases to help kind of push that along, or what's your strategy with that?
Yeah. So if you're in a college town, and I've seen college scenarios where the owner gets surprised, they didn't realize they were in a college town, and that's always fun because they didn't build the property correctly. But the reality is you really need to, seasonality is about inventory management and it's about rate management. That's really where it comes down to. And so, if I know I'm in a college town, I'm looking at my inventory really at the first of the year and understanding, which unit sizes are going to be in demand. There are so many solutions right now where I can take space on the property and I can convert, if I have a lot of larger units, I can convert some of them into lockers, which is great for students. If I have high ceilings with lofts, I can put lockers in there. I can do other types of programs because I want to be able to grab as many students as I can, but I would really like to not use up every single 5x10 I have, so that I don't have any when Mrs. Smith comes down the street and wants a 5x10 for the next 5 years, I can't give it to her because I got a student in there for the next 10 minutes. So I want to look at that. If I have a property that's in a high, ultimately, if I had a property that was in high occupancy, very high occupancy, and it was full of the type of customer that's a market payer, on time, the type of customer we're trying to attract, that's a long-term renter, has got a good length of stay, I'm not kicking that person out for a college student. I'm not raising the rent on that 5x10 so I can move them out, so I can bring in this discounted student, let's say, for 3 months. That said, a lot of times these properties, do lean towards small units. Those small units are not always in demand year after year. The other thing is I have to make sure, obviously I want to make sure that my students are coming in at a good rate, and right now I'm in the fall. So I've got properties in Wisconsin, and everybody in Wisconsin has an ATV, a boat, a trailer, every one of them. And that's great. So my stores in Wisconsin actually see a bump at the beginning of the fourth quarter, which is not common because everybody's putting all their stuff away. So I'm looking at my inventory right now and where I might have a rate strategy going into the off season where I'm discounting rates. The REITs are telling me that they're cutting street rates and this is the climate control rates. But I'm coming into a time when a 10 by 20, a 10 by 30, they're so valuable. I'm not cutting rates on those because I know those folks are coming. So I have to really understand my market and the local flavor there. This becomes really important for operators who, you might be housed in Miami, Florida, but you got properties all over the place. And, you've seen the property, but you don't know anything about, whatever, West Bend, Wisconsin, you couldn't find it on a map. You don't really know much about it. Knowing about that local market and that flavor, you'll understand that generally seasonality plays a part here for sure. But your local market could have some flavor, and a college, maybe just, what the local culture is that's going to affect the general seasonality. So inventory management and rate management, you have to have those nailed down as the seasons come and go. And as Melanie said, and others have said, once you're in the season, it's too late. You got to start looking at it prior to and make sure you're prepared for it.
Well, and I always like to use myself as the own reference here. I do rent from a REIT. Don't tell anyone. But listen, they were the closest. They were the cheapest at the time of entry, right? So those are big triggers for people. So I've been with them for a year. They've increased me 3 times. It is a 5 by 10, and I'm paying $206. All of those increases happened when it was bloody hot in Florida, and they knew darn right well for a pull-up unit, I'm not coming there and entering that thing and emptying it when the index outside is telling you it's 120 degrees or feels like it's 120 degrees. No one's going to do that. If it was inside, I would have contemplated it because at least I can get in the AC and out to the vehicle, right? But drive up unit, no chance. So there's a pure example of how seasonality can affect you, and it's affecting me right now.
I was literally going to say that to Frank when he talked about West Bend, Wisconsin. I was like, ooh, it's time to talk about your December price increases, Frank. Nobody's moving in December.
I would doubt it. I mean, and
already there.
Snow, it's cold. No one wants to be shivering in their booties, moving their stuff. No one wants to be getting snowed on or rained on or any, so it plays a role. I'm going to ask this question from the audience, and then Dan, I'm going to come to you for some review questions, but this is a hot topic out there. We talk about this in nauseum in the industry, but it's relevant since COVID. There was some relevancy even before COVID. But now there's a lot since. So what's your opinion between manned facility and unmanned? Let's just go round table. And Dan, I'll start with you.
My opinion from the measuring standpoint and talking to clients is, one, I'm not getting a sense of this is the way to go. I got a sense early on, everyone was excited about it. And then they're finding massive or flaws within the program. The concern too is the customer getting what they want. So I'm really seeing it's dependent on the client's corporate culture and where they want to go. So there's no right or wrong is what I'm starting to see.
Yeah, I think it's definitely based on your individual goals, your individual markets. We're going to keep preaching individual. I hate when I'm asked blanketed questions like, can you give me a per square rate? Like, yeah, there's benchmarks out there. But I mean, until you get granular into the actual deal, the facility, where it is, it's hard to tell. I was actually at the Tennessee show last week, and we had debate sessions. And this was one of the debates, a live manager versus this unmanned remote hub and spoke model. And that was pretty interesting. So Shannon, I'll go to you next. Manned or unmanned?
If it's me and I'm owning that property, it's hybrid. It's a little bit of both, especially if I have more than one in a similar geographical area. I don't necessarily think that, especially for smaller facilities, that there is a need for a full-time person to be in an office all day long. I just don't know that there's enough work And I'd rather pay that person to do a higher level. I'd like a higher level of person to do a higher level of work, fewer hours a day, than to have somebody just sit there really and babysit your property. That being said, this is, again, it is a multi-million-dollar real estate transaction with hundreds of thousands of dollars in operational expenses, and you need somebody. I'll just put it that way. But
Yeah.
I do truly believe that there is room for, we always call it high tech versus high touch. Are you automating everything that you can? Is your website wonderful? Does it allow people to do things for themselves well, right? Do you have a third-party call center so that you don't necessarily need to have somebody there to answer the phone when it rings all day, right? Somebody will take care of that or handle their emails or live chats, any kind of, stuff like that. So I'm firmly on the fence with both, and it depends. Some, you've got a 10,000 unit facility. You need staff 7 days a week. You've got a 50 unit facility. They can call you. It's fine. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Now, Melanie, I'll broach this as I put it towards you. Essentially, if a website is set up properly, it becomes the man. It can be the man, right? Even on the back end, the email follow-up, here's your e-lease, here's your gate code. Like, you don't even have to talk or touch this person if certain automation set up properly. So what's your perspective on this question?
Yeah, obviously we have clients who have hybrid, some that are completely unmanned, some that are all manned. I agree where the hybrid approach is probably the best one, but we do have clients that have all unmanned facilities and are successful. However, you're exactly right. I think Shannon said this too, like your website has to be top notch. The experience has to be incredible. Because yes, technically they can call someone, but normally if somebody's choosing an unmanned facility, they don't want to talk or interact with people. That's the reason they're choosing an unmanned facility. And so making sure that the tenant dashboard is really great, that the online rental experience is really great, because ultimately they're going to jump off if they're not able to get everything that they want online. And so I think either one can be successful, but it takes a lot of work in making sure that that online experience is top notch if you're going to go that unmanned route.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback on that, Melanie, because I don't think people necessarily know they're calling a facility that doesn't have staff. And so I will caution from the phone calls that we do hear how often we hear things like, okay, well, what are your office hours? And when we're explaining to people over the phone, well, they're remote managed, there's nobody on site. There is a moment of pause for a really, really lot of people. So, that's just something to keep in mind. So when I say hybrid and you have, let's say you have 3 facilities and you do one day here, one day here, one day here, then you have at least some kind of hours that you can tell somebody where there is presence on site, because anecdotally, and I know Frank hates that word, but I will tell you, people are still looking for people, not necessarily to be there for me right now, but to be around my stuff, right?
Yep.
Well, and to add to that, our clients are finding a challenge communicating the message. So whether you walk up to a facility and the door says, what does it say? What are the office hours and what does that mean? The other problem they're finding is Google saying, when you pull up a facility, what time they're open. Well, if you're unmanned and you're saying not, and you're saying closed all the time because Google's not giving you a lot of options, that's not going to work. So now you have to work a wording around there, and it's really a confusion for this totally unmanned locations.
Yep.
Yeah. And that, Dan, I'm glad that you brought that point up, because we will talk about this a little bit if we have time, but directional signage direction within the facility, down to like unit maps to help guide them through the facility, all the way to this is how you can interact with us if there's not a live human here, is a critical piece. And you should be going through that process like you were a tenant of your facility, or have your employ your friends and family to come do that for you, to make sure there's no breakage in the user experience. Because if there's breakage in the user experience, that's going to cause frustration. That could cause them to jump. There's no brand loyalty in self-storage. And that pains me to say as a marketer. I can't even believe I just said that out loud, but I will. But there isn't. It's the brutal reality of it. So directional cues really need to be critical. I did ask another poll question, 2 poll questions for the audience. You conduct internal audits of your locations. And then are you currently happy with your website provider? So if you could tell me their answers there. I am going to bring this up real quick from Wendell. And Wendell, if you could respond in the chat to help me understand this a little bit more. He's still looking for a 24-hour solution to get in touch with someone in case where someone cannot get in and out of the facility, there's a gate problem. I don't like 24 access to facilities. So would be my first question back to you and why there's a need. Frank, you want to go?
Yeah, it sounds like, so we oftentimes over my experience have had a dual third-party strategy here. So we've used a call center like XPS or others, but then we also have an answering service. The answering service is a local company that has a call criteria in terms of, who they call when they get a call. And all it is, it's an on-site number posted at the property that says, if you're stuck in my gate, if you have an emergency, and they're a local message center that is designed to take phone calls at 3:00 in the morning. If you happen to be there, I do not recommend 24-hour access either. But if you have that, then oftentimes your local answering service can help you with that.
Yeah.
I can tell you from an operator who we take millions of phone calls every year and have analytics as long as my arm showing exactly what time of days those inbound calls come. Whether we have a live person here to take them or not is beside the point. I still know what time they hit our system.
Sure.
The volume between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. is so very low that it doesn't warrant having people available to do that. And I think that speaks to a lot of people don't do 24-hour.
Yeah. And I mean, I would, there's some exceptions out there that we can discuss. Like you've got contractors, they're a business client. They tend to stay longer. So you want them, right? You want them to have their buckets and shovels in one of your units. Maybe they need to get it at 4 a.m. Those type of scenarios, you could probably make exceptions. I would charge for it. I would add a fee for 24 access too. It's just another way to collect some ancillary income.
Yeah, there was a time when 24-hour access was a perk. And so the mom and pop shop let 24-hour access exist. First of all, they don't have a gate, so they couldn't say yes or no. But then they did it as a way to separate themselves from those down the street. And the local PD is not a fan. And really, there's no reason to have anyone on your property that late if you can help it, which you should be able to.
Yeah. I have to just put this up here because I've been hearing this so much lately. And this warms my heart because this whole Self-Storage Unlocked series is a labor of love. We do this completely for free. So thank you so much for all of your input. Your lives are always very interesting and informative. You are welcome, Charles. We love to hear that type of feedback. So Dan, I'm going to come over to you for reviews because you have a product, Reputation Manager, which is sorting, looking at all the reviews, looking at the sentiments. Tell me how we should be looking at reviews and what we do with that review information.
Yeah. Well, this industry, so we work in other industries. One of the industries is hospitality. So think of the restaurants, your BJ's, Cheesecake, and things like that. They're getting hundreds of reviews per month per location. Storage on average, 5 reviews per month per location. Some push more, some push less. So you have a minimum amount of data. And I think it's important to understand that because when you're analyzing data, you need to be respectful of the amount of data you're looking at and the quality of the data. Is it clean data or dirty data? Now, when you're looking at reviews, Google, Yelp, Facebook, or you're pushing something else, how much am I getting and what it's saying? I'll also add, look at the comments. The comments are huge. What are they saying within those comments? Because you can glean a lot of nuggets of gold from what's being said. You might see a repetition within those reviews. So certainly the cursory part is, how is my location performing on a star rating? 4, 4.5, 3, 3.5, whatever. And I think there's a lot to be said about that when you start to look at a bigger slice of data. I know if I go to a restaurant and I see on Yelp a 2, I'm not even going to see it. But a 3, 3.5 on Yelp, really, that's not that bad. A 4, 4.5, it's off the charts. So when we start looking at storage, how is that performing? The other thing to think about when you're looking at reviews is a review is reactive. It means it's an experience they had at your location that they're sharing after, right? So proactively is I need to control the best I can my customer experience. And let's just use as an example of walking in or a phone call. You have some type of scripting that you want that customer to go through. Well, you need to make sure your employees are following that scripting to some level of percentage of time, 80, 90% of the time, only at which time they are. Then you can count on that review being accurate, meaning I had a bad experience. Okay, but why? If my people are doing what I'm asking them 90% of the time, then maybe I need to shift what I'm asking them to do because my reviews aren't responding properly.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a circle, right? A lot of people will say, "Oh, how do you measure employee performance?" I look at their reviews. That's not employee performance. That's what they did after the fact. But how is your employee performing? And so likewise, how your reviews are based on your employees' performance. So you need to measure all that. So the challenge that this industry has is getting enough to look at. So I'll caution making too many decisions based on small amounts of data. You have 50 locations, 5 reviews per month. That's what, 250 a month. Globally, on a 50,000 foot view, you can start to make decisions or at least look at what my company is doing. But if I drill down regionally, maybe a little bit less. Locally, location, maybe a little bit less. If I take a longer period of time and look at it, I can maybe make a decision. But I have to look at variables, and a variable could be management change, district manager change. So there's still a lot of value in looking at it, but you got to look at it from things that are all going on. And it's not just simple star review, off and running to go.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Anybody else have any points on reviews? Melanie, I mean, you guys are probably showcasing them. Yeah, go ahead. Go for it. Frank.
Shannon, you want to go or you want me to go?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, reviews are incredibly important from a marketing perspective. I would say one of the biggest ones definitely being Google Maps and Google Business Profile. So that free Google Business Profile that you have, that traffic is gold. We get so much organic traffic from those listings, and reviews is one of the top ranking factors, and not just how well the reviews are, this actual star rating, but how many reviews you have, and also what was how recent were those reviews left. So if you did like a really big review push a year ago, you got a ton of reviews last year, that's great, but now it's a year later and Google will it doesn't necessarily count those reviews as highly because they're all older reviews. And so making sure that you have a system in place to make sure you're constantly asking for reviews is really important to help boost your rankings on those Google Map results. And also I think Dan said this about making sure that like the feedback that they're leaving, the comments that they leave, the keywords that they use in those comments are actually ranking factors as well. So if they specifically say something about the climate control features or some kind of features, and someone searches for that, and you've had people use those specific keywords in their responses, that can also help boost your rankings for those specific searches as well, which is really cool. So we encourage people to, ask for specific feedback if they really liked a very specific feature, to like ask for that whenever you ask for that review as well, to try to get them to utilize those words in their responses.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's good advice. Thanks, Melanie.
Yeah.
Shannon, go ahead. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to say the same thing, that it is a numbers game, right? So we can tell from our funnel when we're asking people for reviews, and we actually send out a link for people who are on our reputation program so that people get a text message where literally they can just give some stars really quick. The take rate on that is so low, you guys. I want to make sure that everybody out there kind of has a realistic expectation for that. You are going to ask 100 people to give you a review. 10 of them might think about it, right? And so that's why it's so important to always ask. Use your brains, though. If someone's calling you to tell you that they're mad at you because every time they come, your gate's not working, please don't ask them for a review at that time. It's not the right time, right? And so we have to be careful because, like Frank says, we have a way that we ask, right? That we want to do the call the same way every time, but the training can't just be and ask for the review at the end, because then you can get into trouble with things like that. But I wanted to just level set that expectation. No, you are going to ask for reviews a whole lot more often than you're actually going to get them. And then one thing we didn't talk about was responding to those, right? Just making sure, good, bad, or indifferent, that someone is reviewing that, someone knows what's going on and is responding.
Yeah, and personalize it if you can, so they know that you're speaking to them. don't get combative online. If it's a negative one, pull that offline immediately. And I don't mean pull the review, because you can't. I mean, pull that conversation offline, get that person's phone number, give them a call. Don't don't get combative online. It's in black and white at that point, forever and ever. Amen. Anyone and everyone can see it. Don't do it. We only have a couple minutes left. Frank, I'm going to come over to you and just talk about, what are you looking at that your competitors are doing that can help you make some decisions within your business?
Well, definitely technology. Technology is moving very fast. And, the bottom line is the hospitality industry, the travel industry is really setting the expectations for what consumers are looking for. Mm-hmm. And that trickles down to us. So, we're really in the retail industry. We're really, storage is, whatever it may be back in the day, you didn't ask for much, you didn't get much. That's not the way it is anymore. How customers, that 300 unit property that's existed forever, that's all around us, that used to just have a sheet of plywood on the side of one of the buildings with a name and a phone number on it. That doesn't work anymore, because the customer renting there expects the same types of technology and user experience and interface as any other business. So I'm always looking to see what's going on there to make my customers' experience better. And some of these technologies save me money, and some of them save me time, and some of them don't. But the customer wants them, and so I have to make sure that my operation continues to meet the demands of my consumers, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for saying the differences, because it is very situational. And yes, if it can help eliminate, time and resources and it cost, it's a part of doing business, right? That's where we're at. And good resources, I'm sure all of you are still out there struggling to try to find good resources. The good thing is, if you can't find good resources, there's now some really great automation and tech that can sit behind that and replace some of those resources. So we had a bunch more questions to get through. I love when we get to the hour and I still have, half a page of questions to go through, because that just tells me we've got a follow-up series coming. So we'll probably be back soon with this same group where we can keep talking more. But before we conclude today, we have a couple announcements for you. So stay tuned real quick. Thanks for everyone being here today. Pleasure to see you guys as always.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
In a world where brand experience is paramount, upholding your company's standards demands unwavering consistency in every location. At the SBOA, we understand the critical role consistency plays in driving your business's success. That is why we joined forces with MSI to introduce a revolutionary internal audit program tailored to meet the specific needs of your organization. Our game-changing audit program leverages cutting-edge technology and expert insight to bring you unparalleled accuracy and reliability. We know that success in this competitive environment is paved with adherence to operational requirements, and every company has its own standards along with state and local regulations to adhere to. So we've made our internal audit system completely customizable, all in a user-friendly app. The app enables on-site agents to collect real-time data and insights from their respective locations. This feature ensures that information is up to date and allows for quick responses to any issues or challenges that could arise. Our internal audit program also has advanced photo and video reporting capabilities. These visual reporting tools allow leadership to visualize non-compliant sites and gain a comprehensive understanding of the issues, with specific examples for clear context, which enhances communication and leads to faster resolutions. And it can be done with just a few clicks and the snap of a photo or quick video. And our program provides an in-depth understanding of each store's performance and challenges. This feature allows for a comprehensive assessment of how well each location adheres to operational requirements and brand standards, helping to identify areas for improvement. Are you ready to take your self-storage business to the next level? Explore our comprehensive suite of services, including internal audit programs, mystery shopping, and reputation management, and unlock your full potential. Contact us today to embark on a journey of excellence and success. 248-954-9000.
Okay, everyone, that is our internal audit program. If anyone is interested in learning more about that program, please get in touch with me. Happy to schedule a demo with you. Again, we talk a lot about automation and technology. That's a great product to help with that. So a couple quick announcements before we wrap up. Today, we are back next week for another episode of Self-Storage Unlocked. It is going to be talking all about how you can set up a new employee for success at your facilities through the onboarding process, getting them acclimated to the culture, your training programs, your review programs, how often you're going to be reviewing their performance, whether you mystery shop them or not. So we'll be talking all about that next week. As always, Self-Storage Unlocked is on Thursdays from 11 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join us. Again, all of these are recorded. They are live recorded right now. This will be out on YouTube. So if you had to step away or you weren't able to join us today, you can always watch our recordings. So please follow us on social media, specifically YouTube, but we're on every single channel: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok now. The SBOA has a TikTok. Please, if you're on any of those channels, go out there and follow us. We put some fun stuff out there for you. Some shows that are coming up this week. If you all were in the state of Mississippi, hopefully you were able to go over to the MSSOA annual event that they do in Biloxi. I know some of my storage friends were out there this week and had a great time, so hopefully you were able to attend. Next week is the Northeastern, so NESSA, N-E-S-S-A. If you need to go online to learn information about that, I believe it's in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, next Tuesday. So take a look at that. A couple big shows that are coming up, and just big because they're combining states or it's a big state. We have the Southeastern Conference coming up in Alpharetta, Georgia. That is starting on Sunday, October 1st, goes all the way to Tuesday, October 3rd. Please, if you're in any of the Southeastern states and want to attend, specifically Georgia and South Carolina, because those two associations run that show, we will be out there that weekend. I am there that Sunday speaking on how to brand your facility. So if you're there, please stop by and say hi to us. Please attend the session. And then the weekend after that, again, starting on Sunday and going to Tuesday, is the Texas Big Idea Conference. Texas is a very large state. It's a very large show. And that one is in Dallas-Fort Worth. If anyone needs any information on upcoming events and shows, follow the SBOA because we always list those in our newsletter. So thank you everyone for attending today. Sorry I ran a few minutes past, but this was a pretty informative session with some really good conversation. So we hope to see you back next week. Thanks for following us as always. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Take care out there.